There is way too much to unpack in our time here, but we'll run through a few of the things you should definitely know. As we've discussed, every user is assigned a profile. On the profile, we can edit all sorts of things that a set of users can have permissions to do and see. For example, the profile can determine which apps a user sees. It can determine which tabs a user can see in a navigation bar. It can determine which fields they can see or edit, and all sorts of other system permissions. The biggest thing I want to point out with profiles is that you can set object permissions here. For each object, we get to decide if we want users to be able to read, create, edit, or delete records for that object. Think of this as a step after the sharing model. For example, for all of the cases I have access to, as determined by the org-wide defaults, role hierarchy, etc., what are the permissions I should have towards those records? Should I actually be able to read them? Should I be able to edit them? What about deleting them? You can set these object permissions for each object for a specific profile, and then you can set different values for a different profile. Hopefully that makes sense. We have these different permissions and abilities that we can grant on a profile. So then, what is a permission set? Well, a permission set can be seen as another group of permissions that can be stacked on top of a profile to grant even more permissions. We can choose apps to make available to the user, we can set up object permissions, we can enable app permissions, and determine field level security on a permission set. So, if a permission set can do many of the things a profile can, what is the difference and which one should you use? Good question. Every user has to have one profile, so start there. But instead of creating a profile for every single scenario and ending up with 50 different profiles for 50 different users, create a handful of profiles with basic permission differences, and then create all of the specific scenarios with permission sets. Permission sets are additive, so if you have permission granted via permission set, but not granted on the profile, it will be granted. It is additive. And one big difference is that you can assign a user many permission sets. I want to get you the rest of the knowledge areas you need, so we will leave it there, but do some more study on this topic if needed. Finally, to round out this configuration and setup section, let's talk about security controls. As an admin, you have set up what records a user can access and what permissions they will have. But what if you want to block someone from accessing the org in the first place? What if they were just fired? Or what if they shouldn't be allowed to log in after hours? Or what if they should only be able to log in while at the office? You can make that happen. If someone should no longer be able to access Salesforce for any reason, you can deactivate the user by going to the user account and unchecking the active checkbox. If you need to do some administrative things before then, you could also choose to simply freeze the user account. If you want to limit the times people can log in, you can do that at the profile level. Go to the applicable profile and then find login hours, and then set the hour ranges users should be able to log in. Since this is on the profile, you can set different hours for different profiles if needed. If you want to limit where users can log in from, you can go to an applicable profile and then create a login IP range. Any IP addresses outside of the ranges you add here will be restricted and the user will not be able to log in. Again, this is at the profile level, so you can set different ranges for each profile, or you must set up the ranges on each profile if it should be applied to everyone. The last security control setting I will mention is the setup audit trail. If you search for it from setup, you can view a log of setup actions performed over the past months. So if you have several users with admin access, you have an audit history of who did what in setup. Alright, we've made it through section 1. Each of the rest of the sections are going to be a little bit shorter, but it's time for our bonus tip first. If a user reaches out to you because they cannot see a field on a record, there are many things you could check, but some of the first things would be ensuring that the page layout has that field added, ensuring that the page layout you are looking at is the one that aligns with the record type in question and the user's profile, and then check the user's profile to see if the field level security allows them to see the field in question. The Object Manager and Lightning App Builder knowledge area makes up 20% of the exam. You can expect about 12 questions on the exam that deal with objects and Lightning App Builder. This is tied with the configuration and setup knowledge area as the most important on the exam. First off, you should know that Salesforce is built on a relational data model. What this means is that objects can be related to each other. You may then ask, what is an object? The simplest way to describe an object in Salesforce is to think about an Excel workbook containing all of the information of a business, where you have a tab for each different type of collected information. So maybe we have a tab for people and their contact information, the contacts that our business keeps track of. Then maybe we have a tab for our products. We have a list of them and their pricing and descriptions. And then maybe we have a tab for our past and current deals or sales. And on we can go with more and more tabs. Each of these tabs would be similar to what an object represents in Salesforce. It is kind of like a category of information, a way we can create a specific type of record, like a contact. And each of these objects, such as contacts, products, and opportunities, would have fields associated with them, which are like the columns in the spreadsheet. With that in mind, going back to the first point,